That's weird. It kind of worked, but it didn't also work. I don't know. This is like fourth or fifth live stream in, and I guess it's working, but it like completely kind of changed up the settings that I wanted. I didn't want to have to change up. I already had like a description and stuff on the live stream, and it all got overwritten. But I think it's working, so I'm pumped about that. Hopefully everyone can hear me all right. Just double check some things. What's up, everyone? All right, let me share my screen. I also need to add some new links and stuff to the description because it deleted it on me. This is so weird. Okay. What's up, everyone? I'm a little bit rattled because all my settings got overwritten right when I started the stream, so now I'm catching up. But where's everyone watching from? Sweet, people can hear. All right. Oh no, now I'm now my audio is coming through. All right, we're good now. So I'm thinking today we'll just do some Leetcode problems. I've linked in the description. What up? I think that's what up. What up, Matt? My man. I've linked some Leetcode problems in the description, and I think that like my thought is we could do these multiple times, whether that be maybe start out with this easy collection that I'm on, and I feel like Leetcode in general is like by no means the easy collection is that easy if you're just getting into Python, but as you can start getting through these problems, it's definitely great practice. And even if the easy collection is very hard to start, it's a great starting point. So I think we can probably start with some easy collection problems today in these different categories, and then maybe do other live streams in the future on the medium and hard, or even just complete more of the easy collection. So I will kind of go through and do this multiple times. But yeah, linked in the description is this link, and I think we might as well just get started with the easy collection. Oh, I'm already on that page. We're going to bounce around. If people have certain categories, so as I kind of scroll through these categories that they would like to see, definitely feel free to add suggestions. And I definitely will. I see a comment on explaining as I go through the problems. Don't worry, I definitely will. I did kind of briefly look through this, so I feel like a really good friendly starting point would be starting on this math category and starting with like a very, very classic interview question. And maybe I've honestly done this on my channel before, but we'll do Fizz Buzz as a fun, easy starting point. One thing to note is that like I'm on this explore page, and if you look at this, like I'm doing these top interview questions, easy collection. You can kind of scroll through the different options. But one thing that I was kind of a little bit not super happy with was that when you start doing these problems, so like if I started doing this Fizz Buzz question that I mentioned, I feel like one thing that's a bit strange is like the editor here is not the editor you might get if you try to do problems on other parts of the site. So if you ever want to like get to the same problem somewhere else, what I found kind of works, and I don't know if there's an easier way to do this, but you can go into problems, click on any random problem, and then just like change up the name. So this is Fizz Buzz. If I do Fizz-Buzz, I will get it in this different code editor, which might be a little bit neater to see. Does everyone see the screen all right? Should I make it bigger? Let me know. But we'll go ahead to start with this Fizz Buzz question. And I mean, this is, I feel like a classic question. If the answer is divisible by 3 and 5, output Fizz Buzz. If it's just divisible by 3, do Fizz. Just divisible by 5, do Buzz. And if none of the above, just output just output the value I for whatever the integer is. So for this type of question, I mean, I feel like there's different approaches, but I feel like whenever I'm approaching any sort of interview question, and this is like a very friendly, this is a good intro one. I would say most levels of Python, you should be comfortable doing this. I don't worry too much about how elegant my solutions are to start out. I just do a solution, and then I work backwards and make it more elegant. So in this one, I mean, you're going to be using some if statements. I feel like the easiest thing to do is do it in order. So if n mod, so I'm doing the mod division sign because if it's perfectly divisible by 3, then this will equal 0. And I can have some sort of output string. I'm going to just leave that empty to start. If n is divisible by 3, then the output we can plus equals Fizz. If n is divisible by 5, we can output add our buzz to it. And basically, then we just want to return either our output, or if neither of these cases happened, then our, just our value n. Also, I see a good comment here on the screen that I think I should highlight while I go through this. So right now we're in the Python 3 code editor on Leetcode. And this is a really good comment because this is something that's quite important and one of the bigger developments into Python over the past few years. If I switched this, I don't want to lose my code, so I'm going to just copy this real quick. If I switch this just to Python, we see we don't have any of that weird syntaxy stuff. But then when we switch to Python 3, we get this n:'int and arrow list string. And so this is great to know because one of the both benefits and the both pros and cons of the Python language is that you can basically work with any sort of data type altogether. You don't have to specify all the types of your data types. You don't have to specify all the data types of all of the variables and whatnot you're working with. And that's great because it makes it super easy to work with all sorts of data, whether that be integers, floats, strings, etc. But it's not so great if people are trying to read your code and understand what types of things are going where, what types of values are expected for certain functions. So these type hints, so these are called type hints, or I might be mispronouncing the, formal definition, but basically what they're specifying is the type of inputs and the type of outputs. So this is saying that our variable n is always going to be an integer, and it's saying that this arrow means returns, and it says that this function needs to return a list of strings. So that's basically what it is meaning here. We don't have to worry about, the list of strings aspect of this too. Oh, I guess we do. It does want a list of strings here. I also totally might have read this wrong. Okay, because we're basically iterating up to the values. We're creating an array here too, and that's actually good to see. I should have actually read this because I was just going to output Fizz or Buzz or the variable or Fizz Buzz, I guess. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. It's telling us what the function expects, and it's telling us what the function will return. So it's a list of strings in this case. All right, so let's go ahead and complete this function. In this case, then, we basically want to iterate. We don't want to just do what I was going to do, which was I thought that this was a single value that we're evaluating it for. We're evaluating it for all values here. So basically, we need to do for I in range n. And we want to output and have kind of a output array. So I'm going to change up my variables a little bit. I'm going to change this output that I have here, make this a little bigger. This is not going to be output anymore. This is going to be our, like, we're just going to call it Fizz Buzz string. And we're starting always, I think, with the value I, or value 1, so it's 1 indexed. So I'm going to do 1 to n plus 1 here. So this is the string that we're trying to generate. If now we have to do I is mod 3 equals 0, it's adding fizz. Otherwise, it's adding buzz. And if neither of those conditions are met, so I guess if I should probably restructure this a little bit. I feel like this is quite a straightforward problem, but because there's conditional statements here, I feel like it can get a little bit ugly with how you do the conditional statements. So I might honestly surround this with a high level okay, we're going to call this divisible by 3. Save that as this variable. Divisible by 5 equals I mod 5. Just so we don't do these calculations multiple times, even though they're super efficient, I'm just trying not to repeat the I mod 3s. And so now what we can do is if divisible by 3 or divisible by 5, then we're going to enter this loop. Else we are going to just return or just append our I. So this first if statement is what happens when we're going to add Fizz Buzz to our string. And otherwise, we're just going to output the normal thing. And then the code stays exactly the same as we saw before. If divisible by 3, we're going to add if divisible by 5, we're going to add the buzz aspect of this, and that looks good. And then basically in this if statement, then we output append our Fizz Buzz string. So let me make this a little bit bigger. What we're saying here is if it's divisible by 5 or 3, we're going to add some Fizz Buzz terminology to a string and then add it to a list because we're outputting a list of strings. Otherwise, we're just going to go ahead and output the number here. And note, because it needs to be a list of strings, I should actually surround this with string of I. And I would say with this, I think we should be good. The final step will be to just return our output after the list is complete. Okay, so I think that that is our solution. I'm going to go ahead and make this full screen for me so you can all see. Then we can go ahead and run the code. And ideally, our test cases pass. We'll see. It looks like we didn't have them pass. Let's see what happened there. Oh, shoot. This should have been an actual condition. And to answer the question about what about if they're divisible by both and 3 and 5, I just handled that with 2 if statements. Because I didn't specify this as an else if, both of these can execute, and I just figured might as well just keep the logic simple like that and not have to deal with like a both case. We're kind of already handling it. So if they both are divisible by 3 and 5, you're going to add fizz, then you're going to add buzz to that same fizz buzz string. So it's going to be totally fine. I think that now it should work because we fixed this logic. Okay, looks like we got the outputs we expected. This is a pretty, I would say, like as far as coding interview questions go, I would expect this to be on the easier side. And again, like don't be intimidated if this is tricky for you. My recommendation is just be consistent with practice and you'll get to a point where you feel pretty confident with this. And the nature of this problem is there's not really too many ways to optimize this as far as I know. I think that this would be a pretty acceptable solution. I think this was a good warm-up problem, so I'm going to go ahead and submit this. My lights always turn off on me. Okay, and it looks like we got an accepted solution, and it beats, looks like people are decently faster though. This is a little bit on the slower side, but I don't know. This is not a type of problem where I'm like too worried about speed. There's definitely probably some optimizations we could do, and maybe that's where this question gets interesting. I'm going to just quickly go back to this. I wonder if after solving it in the problem space, if it also says I solve it here in this explore page. And this is the explore page is where I actually linked yeah, and that's a great comment here from Victor. This is like, if you're ever practicing these types of Leetcode problems, 100% look at other people's solutions. I mean, it can do a lot of different things for you. I think one is if you struggle to figure out a solution, like just seeing people type out their explanations and all of that is incredibly helpful. Another thing is that you'll get exposed probably to different languages, so you'll start seeing logic in different programming languages. But yeah, people can get really smart and creative with solutions. So I'm curious to see, taking that piece of feedback, what happens, what other people have for solutions for this one. And I'll show that in one sec. Oh, actually, sweet. It did go through. I didn't even paste this in as far as I know. Cool. So you just have to submit it. If you've already done the problem, it looks like it will all automatically load for you. But if you go to this, go to discuss button here, you should be able to see different people's answers. This one has a lot of upvotes, so we could also sort by most votes here. Wow, Java 4 millisecond solution, not using the, this looks like overly confusing. They didn't use the mod operator here. And I'm trying to understand how this one even works. It's divisible though. This is an interesting one. I would have to, I feel like, look at that a bit more off of a live stream to figure out what the heck is going on with that one. Python golf. Oh, man. Some of these are like, this person did it in a list comprehension. I do like this approach. Oh, this is interesting. They're actually literally multiplying the word fizz by, I think, a true or false value to whether to get basically a string or not. That's pretty cool. Yeah, there's a lot of fun solutions, especially for a problem like this where I feel like you can get maybe pretty creative with optimizing it. So definitely always look through different solutions and whatnot. But let's continue down and do some more. Thank you for the support over the past 2 years. I appreciate that. Oh, that's awesome. Got a job as a data analyst. Love it. All right, anyone have any recommendations on problems that we should do next? I probably will start kind of at the top. I just saw that Fizz Buzz was a problem, so I figured it was a good starting point. I'm going to go ahead and you can do this in any order. I'll probably kind of start top to bottom. I do have to admit that I was looking at these first two problems prior to starting this live stream, so I kind of want to start at a point that I'm a little bit less fresh on. All right, so this problem is rotating an array. I think that this is probably a pretty common problem that you might see in interviews. Again, like, just try to do these problems consistently if you're looking for a job and you're struggling with the coding portion of the interviews. My recommendation is try to do like 1 or 2 problems at least a day, have like a set time to do them. And I think that you'll see slowly over time, you'll get better and better, and these problems will become easier and easier. If you ever feel like Leetcode specifically is kind of a hard area to get started with and the problems just seem a bit too difficult, one of my recommendations and where I usually start people off that are just learning Python is I go to a site. It's kind of an old site at this point. It might be still using Python too. And maybe a good opportunity for me would be to make a simple Python exercises site. I'm sure there's plenty of them out there. But I just liked codingbat.com/Python. They have just, I feel like, very beginner-friendly problems. So if you're ever struggling with Leetcode, check out CodingBat as another option. But let's go ahead and do this rotate array problem. Good question here. And please, anytime throughout this live stream, ask as many questions as you want. I'm definitely happy to answer them and kind of take breaks from these problems. I would definitely say that problems like Leetcode problems, you're not going to see as much in data science/analyst roles. But I think what they do help you a lot with is understanding programming logic. So the better you get at them, I think the easier everything kind of becomes. I would definitely say you're going to 100% see these if you're interviewing for a more traditional software engineering role. I would also say you're probably going to see something like this at least if you're doing a data scientist interview. In the software engineering interviews, you'll probably see, in addition to problems like this, you'll also see some more design-focused work, whereas in a data science interview, they're not going to be focused as much on your your system design, I would say, abilities potentially, because I feel like traditionally data scientists might not be writing as clean or as robust code as software engineers. But what you might see more in the data science interview is like also some more theoretical discussions and how you might approach building a model or something. But I think regardless, like, I like to refer people to problems like Leetcode because I think if you want to become a better programmer, and that helps you for software engineering, data science, data analytics, just being better at thinking logically, thinking like a programmer helps a ton. So I think that these problems can be very helpful to help build up that logical ability that you have, that you need for any programming. All right, so this problem, we need to rotate an array. We got these arrays that we see here. And this one, we're rotating it 3 to the right. So we see this 1. It gets moved 1 to the right, 2 to the right, and then 3 to the right. So we now see it in the 4th spot here in our output. And I think one of the big things we probably should think about with this rotate array is that our K value, the number of rotations that we do, it doesn't have to be like, as it could be longer than this list. So we might sometimes have to like multi-rotate. So we want to handle situations like that. Also, it's good to note that K is non-negative, so we're never rotating it to the left. So that's also good to think about. Our values could be negative or positive. I don't think that matters too much, but let's go ahead and try out a solution. I think, again, it might be easiest for me to go to that other code editor. So I'm going to, same thing. I'm on a random problem like Fizz Buzz. I'm going to type in rotate dash array, and I should probably get to the right problem. Cool. All right. So let's think about this. I kind of feel like the easiest solution is to make a copy of the list. So our nums list we have here. I feel like if we make a copy of it, then basically we can just update the copy of it or iterate over the copy of it and then update the rotated list. We have one original and one updated, whereas if we try to update it in the original, we're going to get into weird situations where we're replacing numbers that we ultimately need to look at and rotate as well. So I'm going to kind of start simply and then get more difficult. It is interesting that could you do it in place with O of 1 extra space? The solution I'm mentioning with copying the list, it's going to use O of n extra space, because if the length of nums is of size n, then if we copy the list, we're copying n numbers, so we're using O of n extra space. So I'm going to do it with O of n extra space and then maybe think a bit about how I would do it with O of 1 extra space. If I can't figure out a O of 1 extra space solution, then I might go look at the discussion and see if we can find one there. All right, so I'm going to just create something called, and I think it doesn't expect us to do it, it expects us just to return. Oh, it actually does expect us to do it in place. Note that there's a return none. So it expects this nums object to be altered right there, and we don't have to return anything. So again, good to look at these return values because it kind of tells us what it expects with the function. So as a result of this, I guess I could, if I could just simply read, maybe I would also see that, but I can't read apparently. I'm going to do nums, and I believe we can just do a copy. One thing that is a bit of a bummer is that there's no auto-completions here in the code editor unless you have the premium version. So what I would recommend is if you don't want to get the premium version, you could always just go to like your own local code editor and try these problems out and then paste them into the Leetcode editor. I'm going to real quick just make sure that this syntax is right and just see if this copying works. And I do see my standard output gives me this original list, so it looks like this works fine. If I really wanted to prove to myself that this is what I'm printing, I could type in some random characters, then the list, run this again. I think there's also some debugging. Oh, they have a debugger if you have the premium version as well. But we do see my nice, really polished comment that's outputting. So you can print stuff if you need to see things along the way, and I feel like I often do that. Sometimes it really is worth using a debugger. So if you're not familiar with Python debuggers or debuggers in general, worth looking into. But okay, now we have a numbers copy, and my recommendation is let's go ahead and iterate over the length of our numbers or numbers copy, doesn't really matter, they're the same length. So for I and range length nums, let's think about how we want to do this. So we have our k value. So basically what we want to do is, like, we can call this like current number, and we're going to grab our current number from our nums copy and set it to the ith index. So starting at 0, that would be 0 to start. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and just add k to it. So we'll add k and then set basically our current index plus k to the nums list. And yeah, I do see, will this video be posted? Yeah, I keep up, I'm going to, unless something really goes wrong and I say some stuff that I'm really not proud of or something like that, meaning like, cancelable offenses, I will always keep my live streams up. So if I do screw up a ton of problems, even, I want to show both the good and the bad. So I will keep the live streams up, even if I'm really struggling through problems and whatnot. So the video will be posted after the fact. All right. So yeah, starting very simply, my super simple like intuition is, oh, let's just, change up the value of I plus k and, set that equal to the current num. There's definitely some issues with this. I think the biggest issue is that very quickly will this become out of index. So like once we, if we're rotating 3 and we're on the 5th index, then we're trying to get numbers that are, just can't be, can't be found. You can't index farther than you have in your list. So we need to get creative with how we can keep this always within a valid index. So I'm going to call this rotated index equals I plus k. And conveniently enough for us, I think the best approach here is to modulo divide by the length. And there might be some like plus or minus ones that we need to think about here. But if we do the length of our numbers, then basically what this is saying is, okay, if we have, this is calculating the remainder when we do division. So if we have I plus k, and I is 0, or let's say I is 3, because 0, 1, 2, 3, and k is 4, then if we rotated from 3 4 spots, that would be 4th index, 5th index, 6th index, and then it should go back to the 0th index. So if we did 3 plus 4, and then modulo divided it by the length of nums, trying to think if there's something I'm missing here. 3 plus 4, that gives us 7. So it should be back at the 0th spot. So I feel like there might be a -1 here, but it's basically just getting us back into a spot that we're looking for. So I might just leave it as this to start, see what we're off by, and then go ahead and fix the plus or minus 1 aspect here that I'm alluding to. Oh, it's still getting out of range. Let's think, oh, oops, I gotta pass this in as rotated index. And I think to kind of prove what I'm saying and why this is running out of index, if we go ahead and think about a list, so let's say our numbers are equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 0th index, 1st index, 2nd index, 3rd index. We can never actually get to the 4th index. So we don't ever want this to become equal to the exact length of the nums. We want it to always be at max 1 under the length of nums. So I think what we ultimately need to do is we need to modulo divide this by, is it length of nums plus 1 or minus 1? Oh, I see I would be happy if you could edit the video and post. Okay. We'll see if I do that. I don't know if I'll do that for the live streams per se. Maybe I will. But I feel like I could definitely do other videos like this that are more polished and you don't have to listen to me rambling about things all the time. You can just see the solutions. Why is this not showing on the screen? One sec. Oh, there we go. I feel like in my head I'm really struggling with this little indexing plus or minus 1 thing. Let's maybe do an actual example to figure out what should happen here. If our test case is this 3, and let's say we're on the 5th index, then the 5th index should become I feel like I should write some stuff down here. There's a lot of comments I'm seeing, so I'm going to just do my answer and then I'll respond to feedback. But we're on the 5th index, which is equal to 6. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th index, which is equal to 6. If we're rotating it 3, then that becomes 1, 2, 3. So after rotation, 1, 2, 3, it becomes the first index. So how do we divide basically, how can we get 5 plus 3 equal to 1? So if our length is equal to 7 here, then ultimately we want to modulo divide this by the length of our numbers plus 1. Okay, so I was right with my intuition of plus 1. So this was me just walking through a test case in my head to see if it worked my logic, which is always a great strategy for solving these types of problems. And it does seem to check out. So I'm going to go ahead and run this current iteration of it that we have. And we're somehow still getting a out of index issue. I think it's because I think the modulo division will happen before the I plus K. Okay, index is 0. I'm still getting out of index. This is so silly. Okay, let's think. I just had all this stuff down. The length plus 1, I feel like doesn't work. So I'm going to just do this one more time. Just write down the numbers that we had. It was 5th index is 6. You rotate it 3. Becomes 1, 2, 3. It becomes the first index after 3 rotations. Yeah, I'm going to try length minus 1. I think the issue here is if the length here, this is 7. fifth index becomes... Yeah, I think it's this, but then I think we actually add one or something after it. I think there's some weird stuff like this. Oh, my test case is now all thrown off. And I'll explain what my logic is here in 1 second. For I in range. Current num, num's copy, current num. Okay, this is not quite right. I plus k, 8 mod. The length is 7. Oh, can we just... I'm just running into the one issue where... No, if it is length, it's literally length of nums. I think it's just length of nums. Did I screw something up? Or is it a minus? What? I thought I had this. I don't know what I just did in my head. If it's the length of nums, the 5 plus 3 that we were talking about before, length was 7. That 8 mod divided by 7 is equal to the 1 that we wanted. I don't know why I was trying to plus and minus 1. I apologize for the little issues there. I do see other suggestion. I'm going to submit this real quick because I'm pretty confident that it's correct. It works, and we see we're at the very much peak. Probably everyone's solving it the same way. There's some quicker solutions, though. No bracket before. I don't know if I understand what is meant by this yeah, no bracket before comment. Yeah, I didn't have the parentheses in the I plus K, but maybe, but then I thought I added them and then I ran the code again, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I didn't save the file or something and it didn't fix. So I don't know what was up with that. Can we split the list based on the K value and later concatenate them? Let's think about that. That's an interesting idea. I feel like it's gonna... Yeah, there might be an interesting list slicing option here. 0 to... I would have to think about this. I definitely don't off the top of my head know. I mean, there's so many different ways to do it. So what I would recommend is we can go look at some other solutions, especially the, not needing any extra memory solutions, and see what makes sense. I'm trying to think about the 0, O of 1 solution. And I feel like I'm bad at thinking about things while streaming, so I feel like I might just, to let everyone else see the optimal solutions, I'll probably just go to the discussion for now to see that. But I think there's probably something you could do here, but I'm more thinking of like some sort of weird solution where you do like nums, 0 to length nums, and you like iterate in some weird, weird way that somehow magically works, but not sure if there's actually anything there. All right, let's go back to this problem. If I refresh this page, we should see a solution now. And I'm going to go ahead and submit this. All right, let's go to the discussion quick. I think it's all sorted by votes. Let's see how they did it. And so I think the more optimal solution, I think that this is a example of it here. I think it's really just a matter of how you order your rotation. So as long as you don't overwrite a number that you need to look at in the future, you're pretty okay like doing it in one pass and not having to add an additional array of memory. And so I'm pretty sure that looking at the solution, that's kind of what they're doing. Yeah, because you very much don't need that extra memory. Just the extra list that we added made it a lot easier. I'm not going to go dive into this too much, but note for any of these problems, you can go to the discussion and it's very helpful. Maybe let's do one more array one and then do some string ones. This looks like a very simple one. It's interesting because I feel like the order of these, I don't know how they're ranked, but I feel like, looking at these first two prior to this, like this second one here is actually a pretty difficult problem. So yeah, it's just interesting how they organize this chapter of coding interview questions. But given an integer array of nums, return true if any value appears at least twice in the array, return false if the element is distinct. It's just basically, is there any duplicates? Again, there's probably some magical way to do this with minimal extra space, but I think that immediately looking at this, whenever I need to count something efficiently, I use dictionaries. So I feel like I'm going to just use a dictionary, and every value that we see, we'll add 1 to a dictionary. And if we ever have a value become a 2 in that dictionary, then we'll return false immediately and break out of the loop. I don't know if this was to the last question or what I'm talking about now. What we just did, our solution, just to give you the runtime information on the last problem, the rotate array, we only had to iterate through the list once, so it was O of n runtime, but we copied the whole list, so it was O of n space. Basically, if you can do all those swaps in place and just pick the right spot to start from, you can not have to copy the whole array again and just have a couple variables saved to a couple additional variables saved that are constant. So it's like a max number of like 2 or 3 variables. So that's where they got the O of 1 space on, I think, with that solution we were just looking at. Duplicates, I guess sets is very smart too, but I think that with a set, as far as I know, if you try to just convert this to a set, you're not going to... I like this idea. This is actually great. Basically, if you do a set here, I don't know if this would be more or less efficient. It would be simpler. But basically, we could take the numbers and then get a set of the numbers. And then basically, if they're different lengths, just return true or false. So I definitely do like this solution. We'll submit both of these solutions and see what is better for different things. Yeah, perfect idea. The thing that's like a little bit weird is like to create the set, just from an efficiency standpoint, to create the set, we are actually looking at every element. And for efficiency's sake, that is a much simpler solution. But from a performance perspective, if we break out of our loop immediately on the first thing, so like in this example here, this example 3, once we see 1 and 1, we can return false. We don't have to look at all the rest of these numbers. So that's kind of what's making me like the dictionary option. Whereas if we did a set of this, we look at all these numbers, make it a set, and then compare it to our original. So it really depends on what you're optimizing for. This is a really simple solution, and I don't even think it's necessary for me to go to the other code editor to show this one. Like if I submit this I'm going to run code first. Oh, oops, I'm doing list. It should be numbers here. Hopefully this works. Run code. Okay. Finished. Oh, wait. This should be... What's going on here? We're getting the wrong answer for some reason. Oh, what, expected answer true? Oh, what? If any value appears at least twice in the array. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm just contains duplicate, so it wants it true if there is a duplicate. I'm doing it the other way. I thought it was returns true if there was no duplicates. So all we can do is just change this to a not equal. All right. So yeah, I mean, this works. You could submit this. I'm going to do a different solution though too. And these are the things. So what I was just talking about with this set solution versus the dictionary solution that I'm about to implement is, this is the type of details you want to chat through in an interview. And so we see that our runtime beats 62.34% of Python 3 submissions. But I bet you if we do this dictionary approach that we will beat a lot more of the runtime. So I'm going to try that real quick. I'm happy, homie here with the Shrek picture. I'm happy that my tutorial came in clutch for your Python exam. Hello, Maker George. All right, so dictionary solution, what would that look like? Well, we can have an output dict. And yeah, this would be O of n extra space. I'm trying to think what the set would be. I mean, the set could have as many numbers as the original list, so that would also be extra O of n space. But we have an output dict. And basically, each time we run through a number, so for num in nums, output.get the number. We can use this .get because if it's not in there, if it's not in there, then it will just return none. So I could do something like if output.get num. If that is false, then we want to do output num. Like we can just say equals 1. It doesn't matter what we put here because basically if we ever see something in the dictionary, we know it's a duplicate. I see someone asking about premium and Leetcode. I'm not using premium and Leetcode myself right now, so I would say just if you can't purchase it right now, feel free to just. I think there's a lot you can do without the premium version. So I can't give it. I don't have the power to give it. If you see my profile, I can't even do it myself. Output equals 1, and then basically, if we ever actually have this not run, I'm going to just do a else, and I'm going to immediately return false. And after this loop, I'm going to return true. So basically what this is saying is if the number is not in the dictionary, add some key for that number to the dictionary. And then if you ever run into a situation where you get the number and this is false because it actually is already in the dictionary, then we just want to break out of the loop and return false. So this is like fast forwarding us to break out of the loop quickly. Oh, shoot. And I again put the, this is return true. I again got confused. This is contains duplicate. So this is true. It does contain a duplicate. And this is false because we've made it through the list without any duplicates. True, true. Cool, I'm going to submit this. Okay, so I think before we were better than like 63% of solutions speed-wise. Apparently we are wrong. How did we return true here? For num and nums. I want to explicitly say that this is false, maybe? I don't know what the deal is here. Oh, no, sorry, this is true. Oh, okay, this has to be a truthy value. Okay, we're good. Basically, if we get the number, if we don't get the number, oh, I'm just, sorry. This should have been, if not, output.get number. If you don't find the number in the dictionary, add it to the dictionary. If you do find it in the dictionary, return true because that means it's duplicate. Okay, this should work now. Okay, we got accepted, solutions, more details. Oh, wow, it's actually slower, which is crazy. I think that the set function has just been so optimized. And also we're using a clunky for loop, so there might be some better way to do that. I feel like if I was chatting through this problem, though, I would like to allude to like, hey, we can break out of a loop really quickly if we see a duplicate right away. So that's kind of my thought process with this, even if it didn't actually turn out to be exactly what we were thinking. And then we go back to my solution because I see a question here. But .get will evaluate to true if the number is there. Basically, yeah, so .get on a dictionary, if it finds anything, and if we're specifying that number is always 1 anytime we actually have the number in the dictionary, then we'll always get a 1 back here, and 1 is a truthy value, so this would return true, and so not true would be false, and we'd get this. If it doesn't find the number here, the default thing it gets is none. So this is kind of a safe way to get a value from a dictionary, and it will automatically return none. So the default value for this parameter is none. You could also specify it to like output a, by default a list or something. So if not none, that none is a falsy value. So if not none, then actually enters this loop because that is a double negative, which equals a positive here. I see another question: how to learn data science and algorithms. Python is great for data science and algorithm or data structures and algorithms. C++ is also great. I think if you're just getting started with code, it in some regards might be easier to start with Python because it's just an easier language to pick up. If you really, really care about performance, C++ is great because you can kind of have more fine control of how you store memory and all of that. So both can work just as effectively. I think just Python's an easier starting point. But if you really want to understand the inner workings of a programming language and understand how this stuff is being stored under the hood, C++ is going to be more efficient than Python. Yeah, this is a good comment from Victor, and this is what I was saying, that we saw two solutions here, and the first one where I thought it would actually be less efficient what ended up being more efficient. And I think it's because we have a built-in method. The set method was built in, and built-in methods are often, just are super optimized. Whereas we're using still a loop here. And I think there's probably a better way to get the same benefit of breaking out of something early, but not having to use kind of a clunkier for loop with if statements in it. This is really I think the overhead of setting up the for loop is what's causing us performance decrements here. All right, I'm going to move on to the next problem though. Feel free to keep sharing questions as they come up. I love this, that homemade Alexa with Art Raspberry Pi 4 and the NLP video was helpful. That's cool. I would love, you definitely don't have to do this, but if there's ever a cool demo or something, feel free to DM me the demo of the project you made. That sounds pretty cool. All right, let's do a string problem or two. I kind of like the idea of this valid palindrome question. Okay. Okay, so hopefully people are familiar with palindromes. Palindromes are the same back and forward. So apparently Panama, if you reverse Panama, you get a man app. And then, as you build back, but it's both the same forward and backwards. It looks like we remove any spaces from sentences. That's acceptable. We also lowercase any capital letters as part of this as well. And we have some edge cases to think about here, where this edge case is an empty string. I guess they're saying an empty string is a palindrome because it's an empty string whether you have it forward or back. So cool stuff. How would we do this? I think for something like this, I would kind of, there's multiple ways to do this. I might first lowercase and remove spaces from my string. So I might have like, I don't know, string word, maybe I'll call it, equals s dot lowercase, or I think it's just s dot lower, and then dot strip as well. This is both lowercasing it and stripping any white spaces from it. Believe that is correct. And that's going to be the string as a single word. So it's going to be that. And then it's a matter of, okay, now we have our string word. How do we know if it's the same forward and back? This is where you can get kind of creative with some optimization. So you could definitely use a for loop and like look at each spot in the for loop. I feel like what I might do is iterate over the word with a string iterator operator and then just go in reverse. So I'm just reversing it like this. Basically, I'm using the syntax where this is my first index. This is my second, the index I'm going to, and I'm iterating from those spots by -1. But because I left these blank, it's going from the start to the end, and it's doing it in reverse order. And then basically I can just return is string word equal to string word reversed. And this is a very simple solution, but again, the same type of talking point as the last one would probably be in my mind is, okay, in some situations, if we have a really long sentence, I probably can pretty quickly go from the start of the first one to the start of the second one and figure out first time there's not a match between characters, quickly return false. So I don't iterate through everything. And maybe with these built-in methods, it might automatically do that, but this is something I might talk about in an interview setting, run code. No. What happened? Why is string word reversed not defined? Oh. Sorry, that's equal to string word. Should be like this. I wasn't setting it to anything. False, true. What happened? I think real quick, we'll just print out string word and just make sure that this looks good for whatever test case we're starting with, which is a man, a plan, a canal. I think the issue is that we need to strip out all punctuation as well. So that's something to keep in mind. So the strip here is not going to work exactly. We might need to use like a regex or something to just get the characters. I feel like there's an easy way to just get characters, and it's not coming to me. Yeah, there's definitely so this is a great question. Again, it really depends on how the interview is laid out. If you're doing these types of problems on a whiteboard, I think it's totally acceptable because you're probably writing out pseudocode. Totally acceptable to be like, hey, I'm going to use a standard library to check this. I think it's a totally acceptable thing. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. If you're working as a software engineer or data scientist at a company, they don't expect you to rewrite, libraries from scratch. You should use what you have at your disposal. So I would very much say that this would be totally fine in interviews. You might run into some situations in certain interviews where it's like they have a very strict code editor or something where it doesn't let you do that. So it really is a case-by-case basis. But I think most good companies that I think run interviews in the most effective way possible let you leverage built-out things. I think they really care about your logic and how you're thinking about it more so than the exact implementation you do. As long as your implementation is efficient enough and the reasons for implementing things in certain ways make sense, that you're considering the trade-offs properly. What if we use a split and then a join? I don't think that split is good here because there's just so many punctuation characters that we need to do. So we don't want to focus in on the commas. We want to think about all punctuation. What I'm thinking about immediately is is basically like doing some sort of regex where I only get, characters A to Z, and make that a word. So that's like one possibility. I feel like I could also, I might even Google the punctuation aspect here. I'm wondering, can I strip multiple characters here? There's an easy built-in Python method to just get our characters. Regex is what comes to mind immediately for me. But this is the type of thing where I'm totally comfortable being like, hey, I know what I need to do here. I forget how to do it off the top of my head. But I would just look up Python, strip punctuation. This looks like importing maybe the string library, or maybe, oh, okay. Yeah, so import the string library. I don't know what this is doing. That's interesting. Oh, this is Python 3. I'm going to look up a regex solution real quick too. Regex strip only get alpha, or only get letters. I don't like this either. Honestly, I might use ChatGPT, only return letters in a Python string. I kind of like this. I think we could just do this as a list comprehension. Oh, I see what you're saying with the join. Maybe I misinterpreted how you want to do the join. You can do the join here. Yeah, I like is alpha. Thank you for the recommendation here. Yeah, let's do that. That's the best approach that I like. We could use that external library that seems super efficient, but I feel like that's, I don't know, might be a little overkill. I'd rather use a method that's a little bit more straightforward from my understanding of it perspective. So in this case, we can do this, but we also might want to do x dot lower here. I think it will keep the uppercase and lowercase if we don't do this. So I'm going to do this real quick, run code. Let's see what it prints out. And then if it prints out something good, okay. Yep, this looks good. Nice. It's stripped away the stuff. And we've also lowercased it. So I think now our solution will work properly. I'm going to remove the print because a print is a slow operation. So that's definitely going to slow down our code. This looks good to me. It's conveniently enough that they used S as their string. Submit that. What happened here? Oh, okay. Now it's getting confusing because there's numbers potentially allowed in the string. So we don't want to strip away the numbers because that's so weird. So numbers are allowed. That's a weird edge case. I feel like really the regex has made sense to me. Okay, there's a is alphanumeric. Thank you for the help here. Legends in the chat right now. Thank you. Shout out Shiva Raju. All right, let's run the code real quick. Does this work? Okay, I think we're good now with this alphanumeric. This is the helpful thing. It's not just letters that we want. Look at that, we got the solution. Thank you for that tip. Okay, again, not the most efficient, but as long as I would say, we have a nice normal distribution here. As long as you're near the top of that normal distribution or on the left side, and we're beating 68.49% of solutions, we're pretty good. Apparently we used a lot more space than other people though, by basically, looking at this, reversing the whole string. I wonder if it would be more efficient instead of saving that as a variable, if we just, would that be much better? Because we don't have to save it as a variable. We also don't need to save this as a variable. I'll try some things real quick. I think ideally though, we don't need to do all of this computation. There's a lot of easy opportunities to fail fast. I'm going to just curious if I don't use variables. Is this... should still work properly. I just basically swapped out the variables. Let's see if this works. Oh, I'm still using string word somewhere. Oh. Oh, I guess this is kind of important to have. I don't know what is happening now. How did this happen? I'm curious if this will be any better. So I guess we improved our memory usage a bit. I'm confused, but it worked. Let's keep going. Yeah, I think I did press insert. You're right. I always, I always like do that by accident. It throws me off. All right, what other problems can we do? Maybe do a linked list one. I think those are fun. I feel like linked lists are a popular data type to talk about in interviews. There's a singly linked list head, and we want to delete a node in it. And I feel like linked lists, if you know C++, you're probably great at these type of linked list problems because I feel like you think in a lot of similar ways with pointers and all of that fun stuff. Should decrease by 1. Just reading some definitions of this. So it's basically we have a number pointing to another number, pointing to another number, pointing to another number. That's the definition of a linked list. And this doesn't have to be numbers. It could be any sort of object. And we're basically removing it and creating this new list. So I like these visuals here. Okay, and so we see this class list node that we have. And this is of type list node, so we don't have to like worry about it too much. Cool. Okay, so each node, just kind of confused by the input real quick. You're given the node to be deleted. You will not be given access to the first head of the node. Okay. So we don't have access to the head. We just have the current node. Okay. We have the node to be deleted in the list and not the tail node. Okay. So what we need to do is we want to update this pointer so that we skip over our node. This is like weird. The way that they're defining this is kind of weird to me. Hopefully it makes sense how it's done. Delete node. So delete node would be called on a linked list. Okay, so it's called on a linked list. Okay, so even though, okay, this makes sense. Even though we don't have the head, we just need to write a function that if you had this full linked list object, that when you called delete node on it and specified a node, it would work properly. Cool. And the values are unique, so that's an important detail. So what we're going to need to do this is a good question. Do data scientists need to practice linked list data structures as well for interviews? Is an array and strings enough? I would say, like, you're not guaranteed to be asked about a linked list, but I think what linked lists and questions about linked lists prove is that you understand like object-oriented programming and how classes work. So it's not really the exact details of linked lists specifically. You're probably not going to be using a ton of linked lists in any sort of data science work, but understanding just like the inner workings of classes and being able to understand how objects can point to other objects, all of that, still I think make linked lists something good to be able to answer questions on. So I wouldn't spend tons of time, but you should be able to answer basic questions on linked lists. Not returning anything. I'm so confused. Like, is this solution I'm just confused how this is input, but I'm going to just start writing something and kind of go from there. So basically we start at, let's say, some sort of head. We start at the head. And what we want to do is we want to check to see if our next node is equal to self.next. And basically, we want to check to see if the next node is the node that we're supposed to delete. So if next node dot value is equal to node dot value, and this is the node that we're supposed to delete, then we do find that we want to remove it. So if this is the case, then basically we want to set our self.next equal to the node.next. And I think that that's all there really is to it. I'm just confused a little bit about the mechanics of how this is working. But we are given an input of node object. So I think that we're allowed to do this. It's just written kind of weird in this Leetcode environment. I'm going to just run this and see what happens. Okay, so it would be calling a what I'm confused about is that a head would be calling the delete node method it's not giving us the loop, you're given the node to be deleted. You're not given access to the first node of head. And it's not guaranteed that the given node is not the last node in the linked list. Delete the given node. Okay, I guess, okay, we just have to worry about the specific node. So I'm like thinking too far. I'm thinking about what happens at the head, but this is literally just what you do with that node. And all we're going to want to do is instead of doing next node doing self.next, this should be node.next. If next node dot, we don't even need this if statement because we're calling this function. Right, let's think. I'm so confused by the syntax of this. We're not going to, the nature of this being linked list, we don't really need to loop things because it's happening under the hood. We would basically do like a while, node is not none or something like that instead of for the iteration step. If next node is that. Basically, if we want to delete the node, then we want to do node.next equals I guess what we could do is we're not starting from the head. Basically, we're just going to move everything backwards. So we're going to we'll do a loop. And it's just basically going to be, we're going to just change all of the settings. I feel like this is overkill though. Basically push everything in the list back one. I don't think this is the most optimal thing, but I think because we don't have the head, this is what we have to kind of do. So while node.next is not none, node.next. Okay, so while this is not none, basically we want to update the value and we're deleting the node. So our node.value is now equal to node.value is now equal to next node.value because we're skipping over it. While next node is not none. Oh, and what happens if the next node is, there's a, if we're at the tail, this is a little tricky. So this is just handling the case where we're not at the tail. I'll explain this in more detail once I have a working solution. While next node is not none, then we want to basically repeat this process. Oh man, I'm getting like so in my head about the solution. Basically what we want to do is we're at a certain node and basically we want to just propagate the values back one step so that our current node is basically removed and all the other nodes have a value that's shifted by one. So I'm just like in my head, I'm trying to think through that and it makes sense in my head, but it's just a matter of making it organized in the code here. Next node equals node.next. If next node, I feel like if I use better terminology here, it'll be simpler to handle this one. So next node, node.next. No matter what the node, node.value equals none. Okay. I'm being very quiet here. It all makes sense in my head. It's just a matter of getting that out on the screen. Fun things. Okay. we want to set the value to none of the node. And we want to then move. Okay, so it's set to none, but if there is a next node, then that value gets propagated to whatever the next node's value is. And the next nodes, and we repeat this process. While next node is not none, basically repeat what we just did. Why am I struggling so hard on this one? Next node equals node.next. Node.value equals none. I just want to keep repeating this process. I just feel like I need to do like a temporary variable here, like this is like the nexter node. So I'll make the terminology better. I'm going to call it next node equals next node dot next. And basically that, now we want to set next node's value. We want to repeat this process. If anyone in the comments wants to help me out, I would appreciate that. I'm like very close logically. I just am like struggling to like actually put it into words. And I feel like as I spend more time, I get a little bit slower, get a little bit more rattled. All right, node. I feel like maybe I need a piece of paper. I feel like sometimes a piece of paper is helpful. And a pen. Do I have a pen? When in doubt, handy dandy. And I know you can't see what I'm writing, but I'll chat through everything. I just need to use temporary variables somehow. Okay, I'm writing out on a piece of paper this. Next node equals node.next. Node.value equals none. I might, instead of trying to do node, I'm going to just reset the node name. I'm going to say I do while node is not none. Okay, I think we're getting somewhere. If next node. I feel like I maybe am like confusing myself because I have a while loop and an if statement. Next node equals node.next. Node.value equals none. If there is a next node, then the value is the next node's value. Then we need to keep repeating this process. All right, I'm going to try something here. Well, node.next is not none. I'm liking this. I'm liking this. I'm feeling good now. Well, node.next is not none. Node equals node.next. Node node.value equals next node dot value. Node equals next node. Okay, that looks much better. Sorry, I should show the question too. That's probably why I should go to the order. Yeah, it's basically just deleting a node in a linked list, but we don't have the head. We're deleting it from the node spot. And it just took me a little while to figure out how to do it because we can't just skip over a node. We can't just like set it over to the next one. We actually have to, I think, propagate the changes, which is a little bit confusing. Let me open this in the editor. That was probably a good recommendation. Oh, no. Okay. Well, node.next is not none. Node.value equals next node.value. I'm going to just remove this next node concept. Node.next.val equals there. Node equals node.next. And then does this handle the edge case? Yeah, this handles the edge case too, because if it is the tail. Wow, was this the solution we needed? That was so simple. I was just getting so in my head with the naming and all of that, even though I understood the logic pretty quickly. Run this. Okay. Input. Output. Oh, we need to check if it's the node to delete. No, this should be fine. Current value should be none. We have an extra 9 here somehow. Oh. Let's see. I'm a little rattled right now here. Node.next. Why didn't it delete that last? It deleted the 5 as we expected, which is good. We got 419, and then there's still 19 remaining somehow. So there's a little bit of a weirdness here. Let's think about how this is working. It starts with 5. 5, it sets it to none, and then it goes ahead and looks at the next node, which is the 1, and now goes sets that other value to 1, and then it sets node to be node.next. So now we're looking at the one. Oh, yeah, we're looking at the one, and then it does it again. I heard refresh. I don't know if I understand what you mean by refresh here. I see that's the whole delete function. Why do I have an extra 9 here, though? Maybe I do need to do some copying of names here. I'm going to just try something like this. The reason we are setting node.value to none is the case that we are at the tail. So if we were at the tail of a list and we had like 4159 and it asked us to delete 9, then the first thing we'd want to do is set the value to none, because that's basically how we delete it in the concept of a linked list. It should have no value versus a value. So that's our way of doing it. Well, next node is not none. Oh, oops, this should be next node now, right? This might be next node.next. I'm getting so confused with the semantics here. But they said the given node is not the last. Did they specify that? I think they specified that it could be the last node. And it is, it is guaranteed that the given node is, oh man, sorry, I misread that. And it is guaranteed that the given node is not the last node in the linked list. That makes it easier. So it should be next node dot value, while next node is not none. Oh, actually, I can just do this. The current value should be next node's value. The next node now should be the next node's next, as long as it's not none. Oh, and sorry, node value. Oh wow, this is a struggle. I'm kind of embarrassed right now. Node, but you know, that's just life. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Okay, so your node value becomes the next node's value. How is this happening here? If 5 is getting deleted, we set next node equal to the 5's next. Oh, but the current node has to be set to, yeah, the current node is set to that value. Oh, okay. Oh, I need to set the node back to something here too. Okay, we got it. Okay, so we also have to move the node value here. Node.value equals next node.value. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's right. But then this is staying at node. We also need to move that to be the original next node. So node equals next node, and then the next node equals that. And now we're back at where we were. So if it's, okay, I guess then the final step is just to make the last next node dot value equals none. So whatever we ended with after we exit the loop, then set that to none because we're at the end, we're at the tail. And this finally should work. That was tough. That was rough. Or I guess the final node here should be none. F in the chat. Definitely F's in the chat. What the? This is oh, do I have to return a node? I don't think I'm returning anything though. Do not return anything. Like we're removing the 5. We don't want to have, we're returning like a little too much. Oh, I guess though at this point, all right, so I'm just letting you guys know that I failed the interview here on this delete node in a linked list. I'm not getting the job, but that's just life sometimes. Sometimes you just have bad days, so I'm not too, this is just how life works sometimes. And I'm very confident in my coding abilities. I'm very confident in my understanding of the logic of this. Something is off, and that's just kind of how nature operates sometimes. Oh, I guess maybe we need to update the actual nodes next too. Okay, maybe that's where we're drawing issues. Because we're only updating one property of it. We have the right amount. Okay, so we do need to update the nodes next. Next node is node.next. Oh my God, if we're updating the value like we're updating it here, the node.next is also going to be this. And I feel like this maybe will give us what we're looking for. Now I'm just rambling on and saying stuff. I don't think anyone believes anything that I say. Okay. We have a node, and we need to propagate all the changes backwards. So we need to set the value to the next node's value, and we need to set the next of the current node to the next node's next, given that's not none. So maybe actually we do this after the next node part. Try to pass the none value inside. I don't think we need to pass. Actually, now I'm just very determined. I don't want to look at any solution. I do like Abdullah's recommendation here, I believe. Try to pass the none value inside the loop and then return the current node. Maybe this will work for you. I do think we want to like break out of the loop if we get to our next node being none and not. All right, I think that honestly, though, I just like keep implementing things, and if I just write down what's going wrong, then I'll be fine. Next node equals node.next. We want to set the value of the node to the next node's value, and we want to set the node.next to the next node's next. Oh, and then node equals node.value, that node.next is this is next. The new node now becomes next node's next. I don't know if we need we need to set next node. Yeah, no, next node is not getting updated here. Okay, so we get the next node's value. We set the next node's next. We set the node to the next node's next. Then we update the node to be Copy the value from the next node to the current node. Oh man. Do you really? I do think we want a while loop because we need to keep going. Copy the value from the next node to the current node. We are copying the value of the current. Copy the value from the next node to the current node. Copy the value from the next node to the current node. That's done right there. The next node's next is set there. We need to update node to be now next node. And then we need to update next node to be next node dot next. Okay, I think this seems right. Oh my gosh. I don't know, Luke. I see a comment here from Luku. It is a linked list. This is the tricky part of this question, is that we're not given the head. So we have to do all of this deleting of a node without using the head. We need to do it from the actual node that we're deleting from. And so finally, this test case worked. But it would be super easy if we were given the head, because if we had the head, then we literally just remove that node and set the heads next to the skipped node. But the reason this one was difficult, and I guess I should submit this, and I'm upset with myself for taking this long, but the reason this was difficult is because we are only given the node that we need to delete, and as a result of that, we need to propagate everything after it into that node. And so it's not that hard logic here. I feel like with all the nexts happening, it's really hard to keep organized in your brain. But let me submit this. Oh, wrong answer. Great. Oh, I thought we had one. We passed a lot. I don't know. Maybe I'm misreading. Maybe there is something here that I'm. Okay, I see a sorry now. Yeah, it's a little bit harder than it first seems because of you're not given the head. If you're given the head, this is very straightforward. And I don't know, these linked lists, they're just weird. Okay, we're definitely closer though, at least, because we have some test cases passing. It's like this test case passes. Let's see if we added like a 3 here, would it still pass? I'm gonna run this real quick. So some things are getting skipped somehow. Maybe I do the next node first. Something's getting skipped here. I'm going to think about this again. And this is now, I should probably change the name of this live stream to Get Frustrated by Linked Lists for about an hour plus. Even though it's not that hard of a question. I mean, I guess it's tricky enough. Okay. I'm now determined, though, to figure this out without looking at the solution. Do I need to do this immediately? Yeah, I think we do want to do this. I think running this in our head is helpful here. So if we start with 5, so 5, like I'm just gonna write this out literally in like comments, like run through an iteration. And maybe I should have done this earlier, but I feel like I was trying to be too clever because I'm on a live stream. But we have 5 here, and that's the node that we're deleting. So node.value right now is equal to 5, and node.next is equal to a node object, but the node.next.value is equal to 1. Yeah, maybe we should skip this and look for the next question. After saying I'm super determined. All right. Yeah, gosh darn it. Yeah, for the sake of everyone here, let's hopefully me struggling through this helped understand the logic enough where, yeah, I'm fine looking at the solutions. Gosh darn it. I swear if I was on my own, I would figure this out. All these dang nexts. Are you kidding me? Maybe Luku is right. Node dot what? Does it? I'm so confused. I'm just confused with how this runs. Oh, we just have to, oh my God. Why am I doing a while loop? You are right, Luku. Oh my gosh. I'm so mad at myself. I'm so mad at myself. Sorry, everyone. This was so easy. Oh my gosh. That is, I don't know what the heck. That was, Luca, you were 100% right. Everyone was right in the chat. I was wrong. Oh my gosh. I don't know what was going on in my head. But yeah, that is crazy. Okay, well, let's do some more problems. I can't end on the biggest struggle. Yeah. Oh man. I don't know. Oh man, I'm like so rattled right now. I don't know why I thought I had a loop. Something about the head being missing. It's just weird. It's yeah, it makes perfect sense, but it's just like something in my head. Okay, no more linked lists problems for a bit. I'm going to go back to array problems or something. I am so rattled right now. That's crazy. Thank you for anyone that's sticking along. Man, wow. All right, perfect. Shake it off. Honestly though, like I've definitely been in interviews like that where I spend the whole interview struggling on a problem. And then, you like leave the interview room, you're like on the train going back home and you're like, wow, that was actually a really easy problem. I just overthought it. And I think that, like an interview for me, like doing a live stream and doing problems is kind of a more like high pressure environment. And, you just can't always be sometimes you make very silly mistakes and sit on them for an hour. But thank you for the help on that one, people that said it. I just couldn't think straight. Let's do another one, though. Given a non-empty array of integer nums, every element appears twice except for one. Find that single one. I feel like this is very similar to the one we already did. Every element appears twice except for one. Find that single one. You need to implement a solution with linear runtime complexity and only use constant extra space. So copying the list is not allowed. Also, like making a dictionary of every number that we've seen will not be allowed. So constant extra space. Let's think about this. Every element appears twice except for one. Find that single one. Can the one that doesn't appear twice appear multiple times? It doesn't really specify here. Okay, given a non-empty array of integer nums, every element appears twice except for one. So easiest solution, I'm not going to worry about the extra space right now. I mean, easiest solution might be to do something like to answer the question, it is about 1:12 p.m. where I'm from, and I'm in the greater Boston area. Okay. So I'm not going to worry about the constant extra space right now. I'm going to just focus on the linear runtime complexity, and then we'll worry about the extra space. Easiest solution to this problem would be to like do the same as what we did before, do like a dictionary or something. And then just basically map all of the numbers. I'm trying to think. If we see a number, every element appears twice except for one. Find that single one. So, I mean, the easiest solution, though, is like a dictionary. Every time you see a number, for number and nums, you add output number equals, it could be anything. You could add anything to that number's dictionary. You just want to find it in the dictionary. And then you could just do something like basically find the set of output.keys minus, or we might do this the other way, set of output.keys, and we're going to subtract the set of numbers. The keys would, oh, actually, sorry. We need to do something slightly different. We would want to actually increment the number. So output.num equals output.num, output.get num, 1 if we don't already have it in the dictionary, plus 1, so I think that this is right. All my inner workings of my brain are conjumbled right now after spending way too much time on that pretty easy problem, but that is life. And I appreciate the kind words making me not feel as bad about myself from people. But output num, we set it to whatever it already is, plus, oh, actually, so this should be a 0, plus 1. And then basically we would want to get any keys that are of value 2, and then subtract that from our original. Or actually, we could just find the key, iterate over the dictionary and find the key that has value 1. This is a very simple approach and not a best super elegant solution. So like what I would do here for like key in output, if output key equals 1, return key. This is going to give us the right answer. It's just not, it uses a lot of extra space. Not the most elegant. It is linear time complexity because we run through the list once to create our dictionary, and then we run through a dictionary that at max is the same length of our original list to find our output key. So it's like you run it linear computation twice. O of 2n is still O of n, still linear. But we have this whole dictionary that is an additional O of n extra space. So I wonder actually what would happen if I submitted this. I wonder if they would give me an error because I'm using more space than they are allowing. Or maybe that's interesting. They say it's accepted. Let's just see. But let's try to get a, this is so weird. Your memory usage beats 93.89% of Python 3 submissions. Your runtime beats 21.37% of Python solutions. How would we get a linear time complexity in this type of problem? Like, could we not use this dictionary? So I suppose this is going to be the size of how many numbers we have. Think about bit manipulation for optimal space complexity. Okay. I like this hint. Shout out Luku, who's been a legend. I'm going to just give myself like a byte of data. Bit manipulation. For optimal space complexity, think about bit manipulation. Oh, this is really cool if I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to think, okay, what is our, oh man, this is pretty tricky. But I think it makes sense if I'm thinking about it, right? This hint is very helpful. I don't know if it's the same hint that they give here, but I'm not going to look at it. But if these are all numbers, and the numbers, I guess they can be both positive and negative. But wait, this isn't quite, I was thinking like, okay, if 1 shows up, then we can create some sort of like number, and we add the number, like if 1 showed up, we would add 1 here. If then 4 showed up, you'd add a 1 here. I mean, this is just me adding numbers though together. If a second 1 shows up, flips it. So like maybe some sort of addition. I don't know where the bit manipulation comes in per se. I see this comment, can we use a hash set? maybe I'm not super familiar. Do you mean a hash map? Maybe I'm not super familiar with the term specifically hash set. I'm using a dictionary right now, which is a hash map for trading terminology. Gotta keep it simple comment. I'm trusting Luku with my life right now after the last problem where I just was all in my head. I feel like now I'm really thinking about bit manipulation. So this solution works just for anyone that's tuning in. And maybe I go to single number so people can read the prompt as I do it. So this works, but we don't want to use the extra space complexity. If you every element, you must implement a solution with linear runtime complexity and only use constant extra space. Hello, centered div that has jumped in. All right. For number in nums, I don't want to use a dictionary. How do we figure out what is I feel like I want to add a number and then subtract a number. Like if I ever see the number twice, let me think about this. Okay, the solution works, but now we need to figure out what only appears one. Is it in any sort of order? It doesn't specify there's any order or anything. Like it doesn't have to be powers of 2 though, too, right? If it's powers of 2s, this would be pretty, I feel like, easy to do with some sort of bit manipulation. Okay, we got another hint from Luku. Think about bit operators and then read the description again. I don't think anyone would come up with this without a hint. Every element appears twice except for one. Find that single one. Given a non-empty array of integers, nums, single number. Can we exclusive OR operator here? Maybe that would work. How do I even, what is I forget the syntax for exclusive OR, XOR Python. Okay, it's the... No, where did my screen go? What the heck? Where, okay. Maybe I'm, oh man, exclusive or. I like, now I'm like getting back into college stuff that I haven't done in a while. But yeah, I understand how to, I think, implement this. So I do see a comment, why not just sort the list and iterate comparing current with previous? The reason we wouldn't sort the list, because we need to have a linear runtime. If we sorted the list, a sort takes n log n time optimally, so that already gets our runtime over the linear that we're expecting here. But the exclusive OR option is quite a good one. So if we have some sort of, so I'm writing out a byte right now. That this represents 1. This represents 1. Is if we exclusive ORed this, it's got to be 1 OR this. If we exclusive ORed these two values, we'd be left with 1. But if we exclusive ORed these top two values, we'd be left with 0. So basically, if I understand correctly, the premise people have been sharing, we can do the output something like this, I believe. Maybe I shouldn't have deleted all my old code. I'm just gonna leave that here. I think we could do something like output equals, I don't know, 0 to start. I think then for num in nums, output equals output exclusive OR num. I think if we do that enough, and I could probably do this in a more elegant way here. I probably don't even need a for loop. Like, can I do, would this exclusive OR equal to, is that a thing? I don't know. Output equals output, and then I probably could just return output. I guess we do have to iterate over all nums, so this probably is the most elegant solution. Let's see if this now works with the run. Yep, it looks like it does. That is really kind of a cool problem. I am also noticing, I very much, I feel like, wanted to prep and like get back into the swing of these Leetcode problems a bit more before doing the live stream, but I ended up running out of time and just doing the live stream. But it's very much, I feel like, the case where if you aren't consciously thinking in this sort of manner, you do lose some of these skills. Like, I didn't even think about exclusive OR. Oh, okay, so you can do exclusive OR equal to num, it looks like. Let me try this real quick. Accepted, nice. I'm going to submit real quick. Yep, there we go. Beats 93. That looks like the optimal solution. Why? I want to show Luku's comment. Yeah, that's crazy to think about. That's really cool. I'll explain this one in a little bit more detail. And the reason we had to do this crazy way was because we needed to use only constant space. So we only wanted to use like a number versus storing a whole dictionary. And the basic premise, I'll try to show this one more time, but you'd have to really kind of get into the math and the weeds and stuff. But basically, what I'm showing here on the screen are binary representations of numbers. So this one would be, if this is a binary number, the ones place is here, the twos place is here, the fours place, I just accidentally switched, is here. So, and then the eights place, so it goes by powers of 2, is here. So this would be the number 13. This right here would be the number 1. And the actual numbers here don't matter at all. But what matters is that with the exclusive OR operator that we run on these, it basically says, okay, if you looked at these bit by bit, only put 1s in your output for values that have mismatches, basically. So in this situation, exclusive OR of 1 and 13 would actually end up being all zeros. But the cool premise of this is basically, if we know that we're going to have all numbers show up twice, except for 1, then all numbers are going to be perfectly matched up in this XOR operation, and they're all going to produce zeros. But the one number that's not perfectly matched up with another, when you XOR it with the resulting 0, so if we have like, an XOR with, the number, I don't know, like 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, the number 2, then this is going to, so this is 2, and this is the number 0. When we exclusive OR this, we still have the 1 place here, so the resulting value is 0, 0, 1, 0, because that was the only column in the binary number that exclusively had 1 or 0. So hopefully that I was explaining it for this. Hopefully that made sense. But let's move on. I'm going to go until, like 28 more minutes. This video will be up afterwards, even though I'm embarrassed and don't want the struggles of the linked list problem to show up. I will, the good and bad will stay up. So I'll try to edit a timeline though, so people can know that I'm spending 5 hours on a linked list problem and can skip around that as needed. But that's I guess, that's a good solution. Anyone have any recommendations for types of problems to try out? Maybe a tree. I'm hesitant to do a tree problem after struggling so much on the linked list one, but maybe it would be healthy for me to face my fears. All right, we're going to do a maximum depth of a binary tree. This is pretty similar to what we were doing before. We're going to we actually are given a root here, this situation though, so it's a little bit easier. I think getting a solution is not too bad here. You could definitely do some recursion as a pretty easy way to approach this. But given they kind of hard code what we're expected to do, I don't know if recursion makes the most sense. There's a cool roadmap from Leetcode for algorithms and data structures ordered with mappings to essential Leetcode problems. The problem is the first one of the bit. Oh, this problem is the first one of the bit manipulation. Okay, cool to know. I'll have to check out Leetcode. I definitely have heard some people enjoying the Leetcode platform. So that is something to do for sure. Thank you for that. I do see solving the Sudoku one. I'll do the Sudoku one. How about we do the Sudoku one right after this max depth problem? All right, I'm gonna again just go to the maximum depth of binary tree. I'm gonna copy this real quick. I like the other editor because people can actually read the problem alongside the solution. If you just put dashes between the spaces, it seems to load the correct problem. Okay, return its maximum depth. I mean, in this situation, I mean, we kind of have to, I feel like you have to look at all nodes to figure out the maximum depth. There's no other way of getting around that. My intuition would be to use recursion here. Basically, what it's asking for is that this would have a max output of 3 because you have this node, and this node. So it has a total depth of 3. And you just basically need to traverse down the tree until you have no more left or rights, and then you know you're at the leaf node, and that's basically what you output. I might create like a helper, like depth recursion or something like that, helper method. It basically takes in a root and it gives me a current value that I'm at. So it would start at 0. My basic thought is if I can just keep passing a root into a recursive function until it hits a base case of not having a left or a right, then I know that we're at the bottom. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about right now. I'm trying to think if there's any more straightforward options here. And I just like that because I don't have to worry too much about left and right and keeping track of as many things. So I might try this recursive helper. This should hopefully make sense. I'm not going to add my type hint parameters here. I'm lazy. Python works with or without those. So basically what I'm thinking about is eventually if your root dot left and if you both don't have a root dot left, if that is none, and root dot right is none, and not root dot right, then basically we have hit the edge case or the base case, and we're just going to return whatever value we're at. But if there is either a root dot left or a root dot right, then we're going to pass in actually, I'm going to do this slightly differently. If root dot left, then we're going to pass in depth recursion root dot left value +1. So we've gotten one more depth. I'm going to have to probably balance out the edge cases a little bit here. I guess this is self.depth recursion because I'm writing this inside of the solution class. I don't know. Can I write these outside of the class? I probably could. I'll play around with all that because yeah. I'll just keep it in the solution class though. Root.left, value +1. If root.right, and this doesn't have to be an else or situation, depth.recursion, root.right value +1, and then the other situation is if neither of those are true, we just basically want to return the value. Okay, that makes sense. I think this should trickle back and work. I think the value starts at 1 though. If you just have a node, I guess that's depth 1. I don't know if they give you an example of that. So 1 is kind of the starting point maybe, I would say. This situation, if you started at 1, you have root.left here. Root.left would be, value would be second depth, doesn't have a left or right. So that would become 2 and return 2. Okay, I think that this... Oh, I guess no, I don't need a return. Eventually it will automatically return, right? I'm being silly right now, so don't mind me if I don't know why I'm tripping up on if I need a return or something or not. Okay, so then basically we can just use this function, return depth. I think I can just not use the return here. I haven't done recursion in a hot minute too. Return depth recursion self dot depth recursion root, and we don't even need to pass in the value because it will default to 1. Let's see if this works. Okay. Output 2, expected 3. I kind of feel like we're close though. Oh, we need to return the max though. Right now, you'll never check the right path if a left one exists. Basically, I need to check the max of... The logic is almost there. If root.left... Yeah, okay, I need to get a max here. So I basically want to run both of these. Like I feel like I want to say like left path equals this. The right path is this. Okay, actually I think I have something now. Bear with me for a second. I basically want to check the max of these two paths. I'm kind of writing this out in pseudo like semi-code. So we want to check both of them if they exist. If they don't exist, if it doesn't exist, then you're just going to have the value. I'm going to optimize this in a sec. I'm just trying to get the logic correct. value if you could check if root is none. And it's a good hint. You could check if root is none, then you don't need to handle left and right none cases since they become root in the recursion call. That is true. For whatever reason, these live streamed, when I'm thinking about nodes, they get confusing. I do like that idea though. So instead of doing it like this, basically I just check if not root. So if not none. So yeah, if root is none, then we return the value. That's basically what we're doing here. So in this situation, yeah, okay. That still is right. Then I just need to figure out what to do with this max path. We got the base case. Okay, so basically then we're fine passing in nones. So I don't need to worry too much about right path and left path being defined. I just need to return the max of the right or left path. I think this checks out. Makes it a lot simpler logic-wise. And we want to take the max of the left path or the right path. The base case is if we the base case is if we are on a leaf node, then so if this was the base node, value is 1. Oh. Shoot. In the base case is if there is no left or right nodes, then it's just returning the value. So if we had just the root, no left or right, I think this is off by 1. Okay, this seems to be working. Submit this real quick. What if root in max depth is none? Yeah, okay. I think I just adjust that timing-wise. Yeah. If root is none, then it should be 0. But if there is a left or a right value even, yeah. So this does work. Thank you again for the hints along the way, Luku. All right, cool. I think that I'm pretty happy with this solution. It's very simple and straightforward recursion. I added a helper method. Maybe I should rename this a bit, just to allow me to retroactively call these, dig deep into the tree that we're analyzing. But I think that's a pretty good solution. Hopefully this makes sense. Basically, you're either ever going to have your left side of the tree or the right side of the tree be longer. We're going to look at the lengths of both of those paths. And we basically, increase one, because each time let's show the tree again. So we start here, and then we look at the left and the right. When we're looking at the left and the right, this is now at depth 2. Depth 2. Or I guess it's kind of confusing with the ones and zeros. So don't mind me if I'm off by one in your head. I'm just going to try to explain the logic here. But you look at this value, we can say that this is depth 1. You look at these two values. These are at depth 2. Basically, we just keep repeating the process. If we ever don't have left and right nodes, we just return whatever depth we're currently at. And by calling this recursive function, we can basically look at all the nodes in the tree and then just figure out which path is the longest path and return that value to give us our final depth, because the depth of a tree is defined by its longest path. All right, so let's do the Sudoku problem, and then we'll probably call it after that. I think a valid Sudoku here. Okay, this is probably going to be a pretty tricky, pretty tricky question. I feel like if I was to do this, I would probably write some classes and stuff to help keep it organized. So look, this is valid Sudoku. How do I spell Sudoku? Sudoku. It's a U first. I kind of thought it was an O first for some reason. All right, so to determine if a 9x9 Sudoku board is valid, only the filled cells to be validated according. Oh, I skipped that problem because I thought it's too much to type. Yeah, I think we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I'll give it a shot. It is going to be a lot to type. I think we're just going to my thought is build a function to check each of the different rules. It's a lot though. Yeah, let's. I'm going to look at it a bit, and maybe if we don't solve it, I'll at least chat through how I'm thinking about it. So determine if a 9x9 Sudoku board is valid, only the filled cells need to be validated according to the following rules. Each row must contain the digits 1, 9 without repetition. Each column must contain the digits 1 through 9 without repetition. Each of the 9 3x3 sub-boxes of the grid must contain the digits 1 by 9 without repetition. Okay. So my thought, simplest solution, maybe there's more optimized solutions, is basically just check to see if those rules are met, both first by going over rows, next by going over columns, and then by iterating over each 3x3 grid. I feel like using something like NumPy would be my intuition, because there's probably some just methods within NumPy that make this a lot easier, but that would include needing to translate it first into a matrix instead of a list of strings. So let's just look. Yeah, that's kind of my intuition. I'm trying to see if we can get a good example of a failure case. Same as example, except for the 5 in the top left corner being modified to 8. Yeah, if this was an 8, then the top left here would have 2 8s in it. So let's just, I'm going to my template for this, if I was walking through this in an interview, I feel like, as a very simple starting point would be, I might make functions called check column or check rows. I might have a function called check columns. And I might put passes here. I might have a column called check, 3x3s. I don't know what the best method. I might just call this check grids for simplicity. Pass that. And then basically my isValidSudoku function is if or return check rows and board and check columns board and check grids board. This is basically my function. And I guess this is all self.check. Self.check grids. And basically with this, one thing that's cool to know about Python, I'm pretty sure I'm correct in saying this, is that it will fail fast. So when you have an AND operator, putting together an expression, because it knows there's AND operators, if check rows is false, it won't even need to evaluate check columns or check grids, because if this is false, then there's no way this full expression could be true. So that's one little nice thing to know, where it shouldn't run the other commands if it doesn't need to. Now I think it's a matter of, okay, how do you run check rows, check columns, and check grids? I feel like you could break this up into even smaller functions, like check a single row. And basically then the check rows function is just becoming, iterating over 0 through, it's a 9x9. So running 9 iterations of the board and just calling check row on each one of those iterations, to be determined. It's weird when you're working with Leetcode because you don't have your own code files to organize this nicely. But, I might give myself a property called board size equals 9. I don't know. Or board height, board size. You could modify this so you could have different sizes of Sudokus. But I would do basically for I in range board size. And then let's think about it. Do I have to call it solution.board size within this class? No, I think I should be fine because we're using it inside the class. It's defined. Then I basically check a row. So if I want to check a row, the first thing I need to do is get the row. So our row is going to be equal to board indexed by I. And then once we have the row, basically we want to check to see if it at max contains it never contains a duplicate of the 1 through 9. Could very easily, I'm trying to think of a simple way to do this. You could honestly have a row dictionary with all the values. This might not be the most elegant, but I kind of, in some regards, like this. This is starting to get into some typing stuff. You could convert it to a different type of data type too. But I'm just thinking it's not too crazy to initialize a dictionary, and I could do this more elegantly. I could do a list dictionary comprehension here. Basically do string I to k to 1 or to 0 for do string k 0 for k in range 1 to board size +1. And honestly, I probably should make this like a separate thing. Let me just real quick print out what this gives me. Don't mind me real quick. Can I mute? Yeah, I could make use of a set. I feel like, why am I never thinking of a set? I feel like you could do a set, right? Let's think. You have a set of 1 through 9, and you want to subtract. I don't know. Would a set work here? I don't know if the set would be the most elegant. I'm thinking about it. If you have a set to store the scene elements, yeah. But you need to know how many times you've seen the scene elements, not that just that. Oh, I guess, okay, yeah. That's smart. So if it's in the set, then you're running into an issue. Good call. Good call. I don't know why I gravitate so much to using dictionaries for all things. I think I've just always done that, and it is a very valid point to just use sets. So we don't even need a row dictionary like I'm trying to do. We could just do, row set equals, define it like this, I believe. I use sets a little that I forget how to. You can also just do set like this. I think though, if you use the I forget how to initialize a set the other way. So for going through each row, now we're checking the row. We have the row for item in, or for value in row. We want to check if row, or if value in a row set, then we want to return false, because that is not a valid Sudoku, because we've seen a number twice now. Else, we want to add, is it just append? This is like add to set Python. It's pretty embarrassing that I have to Google this one. I don't know why I don't use sets at all. Add value, okay. I am right though. At least I had a good intuition. Add value, okay. So if we do that, it will return false if we ever get to a situation where the value is already in the set. The thing is though, this needs to be alphanumeric numbers, because with this orientation, we have commas and stuff. I don't know. Oh, sorry. We have the periods. So we just want to also check that it's not a period or something like that. If value in row set, yep. I just need to now check the period, because we will find the value in the row set. I could add another if statement. I don't know if I want to add another if statement. Is there if value in row set? I'll just say if value not equal to and yeah, this works in my opinion. This handles the period case. All right, and now I think if you get through all of the rows, you can just return true. I'm trying to think, does this set everything properly? It sets a new row set each iteration, and it sets a new row each iteration. So I think that that is totally fine. I mean, honestly, we can make use of this same function for columns. Just the way that we get our row is a bit different. So if we have this list of lists, basically we want to get the first element of each of those lists of lists. So we can do some clever, I'll clean it up in a sec, but you know, my check columns would be pretty similar, except now our column, instead of board I, it's going to be whatever I we're on. So starts there. What we want to do is basically get the ith element from each of the lists. How do we do that? X for X in board now this is I'm being silly again. We want to get all of the first items from this list. If we have a list, that would be getting X, basically XI for, we want to get row I for row in board. I mean, this would be one way to do it. Might be a better, more elegant way to do it though as well. And also, like, one thing I don't like with this solution so far is I'm repeating code. Like, this should just probably be, you know, a function now. Basically, I want to get a list of items. Yeah, like, I want to get this as a, yeah, I'll just make a function for this. Like, we have our yeah. I'm going to make this a function too, because I'm going to repeat this in all of them if I don't make this a function. So I'll call this like def check. I'm just going to call it check numbers, self, and then like, or maybe I'll call it check values. That might be more explanatory. Check values, and then basically the value set is this for value in values and value in value set. Okay, now I can call check values on all of these. Oh, now though I have a feel like we're almost. I'm like trying to do too many things at once. Maybe I should just get it working before I try to optimize with some of these. But return false if this is the case. Otherwise, we return true. The only thing that we need to now modify here is we can do self.check valid equals self.check values of the row. If not valid, return false, and otherwise return true. I think that this is correct. Can do the same thing here. This is a column. So if we ever have an invalid column, return false, otherwise return true. And then we can do the same exact thing for, for our grids. But the hard part about the grids is just a matter of getting the grid. So if we think about this, if we need to get 3 by 3 grids, we want to iterate by 3. And then iterate by 3. Kind of feel like we want 2 loops to just get our different iterations here. And it's always going to be, I mean, the board size is 9 by 9. We're guaranteed for that. So we need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 iterations here. But this time it's a little bit more complex on getting those initial indexes. So to get the grid, we need to, there's different ways you could go about this. And you kind of need like I feel like you want to get the starting index of your board. So instead of doing this, honestly, it's going to be like in range 0 through 9, iterate by 3. That's going to give us our x values for y in range 0 to self dot board size by 3. So this has 3 iterations. This has 3 iterations. That's 9 total iterations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's good. And then our starting point here, our grid is going to be, you need that starting index. So it's like board I. Maybe I should make this J instead of Y. Board IJ, and maybe I'm wrong here, but this gives us, yeah, I guess it probably doesn't actually matter which way we do this. This gives us our starting index. And then basically we want the +1, +2 options off of that. If I really, there's probably a more elegant way to do this, but like I feel like I could just manually, maybe this is the too much type that Luku was alluding to, but the easiest way to get this grid would be to just manually do the +1 all the different locations in this grid, which I might do as a simple starting solution, and then maybe see if there's a more elegant, like NumPy, you definitely could do this more elegantly than the indexing manual solution I'm doing right now. But I could very easily do something like make my own list. I could very easily do this. Anyone have any recommendations on how to do this more optimally with maybe loops or something, or a list comprehension? Is this right? Board. That's 9 total things I'm putting in, so it's not the end of the world. Oh, did I just screw something up? I plus 1, j plus 2, and then finally board I plus 2, j plus 2. So this is giving me the 9 value thing that I need. Like, I guess if I wanted to make this a little bit more neat, I might use this new line character and try to align it a bit better. So I might do something like that. This gives me a little bit more of an idea of what the grid actually looks like. And we check the columns the same way, check values. I think this is probably good. Run the code. We got it accepted. That's pretty crazy for not just testing any of this stuff. Let's see if it worked on both cases. I mean, this is a pretty straightforward approach here. Like, not optimal by any means, I don't think. And maybe not terrible. I think that's pretty straightforward. Check row, check column, and then check grid. And then, I mean, basically, just create a function that does all of those things. Hey, accepted. Runtime beats 83.55% and memory beats 85.62%. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think part of the reason it ran faster than all of those ran faster than a significant amount was because we did return this in such a way with this AND statement that it doesn't have to check rows, check columns, and check grid every time. It can fail fast if one of these is false, and it knows then the expression is false. Cool. All right. I feel like we finished a lot stronger than I'm super rattled by the one. I don't even remember. Like, I feel like my memory has wiped it from existence. I'm super rattled by that one linked list question. That is going to give me nightmares tonight, I am sure. But I think besides that, this went pretty well. I definitely appreciate everyone that provided input and advice as I went through these problems, especially when I was struggling. I'll try to add some video timeline annotation. So if you want to retroactively go back and watch this recording, you can, and you can just skip to the specific problem you want to check out. I also would love for anyone that tuned in or anyone that wants to see something in the future, if you want to see more Leetcode or want to see different types of problems, I definitely could use some practice. I'm definitely a bit rusty, but I would be happy to do more of these problems, chat through how I think about them. But I also would be happy to do more of the types of projects that I do for freelance or just actually, professional data science-y type stuff that I guess is a little bit more I'm comfortable with right now because it's what I've been doing. So yeah, let me know if you have any ideas for future live streams. Definitely want to keep doing them. I feel like my goal right now is to try to have like one piece of content published a week, whether that be a live stream or a formal video. All right. Yeah. Again, thanks for everyone that tuned in. This was fun. Until next time, everyone, peace out. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Gotta do that I'm not a YouTuber if I don't say those things, I think. All right. Also I'm curious, like I said I was going, but now I'm talking more. I'm curious if there's another place I should stream. I haven't ever really explored Twitch, but if people are interested, everyone here is on YouTube, so obviously you guys like YouTube, but open to other ideas, whether that be LinkedIn, Twitch as well. All right, take care.